I've tried. I've failed. For the next 30 days, I'm putting my habits to the test. 5 daily habits, 3 tracking apps, and 1 big question. Will any of it stick, or will I burn out like I have before? As 2025 drew near and I was contemplating my yearly theme, I keyed in on an area that I wanted to improve: my morning routine. You see, I knew that creating a system of habits would be the most successful way to make it work, and I wanted to ensure that I was tracking how well I was doing. James Clear stated it well in Atomic Habits when he said, "Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations." I wanted that success. I needed better habits, and I needed to challenge myself to change. My initial attempts were both educational and a little misguided. I initially wanted to use Obsidian, so using some of the AI tools, I tried to build a data view dashboard. It felt incredibly kludgy, and it ended up being a lot more effort than what I wanted, especially given what I was looking for was, in my mind at least, a fairly simple problem. I then decided I'd try Notion. I watched videos, I built my database, I dove into formulae. And it worked, but it also felt like work. Every time I wanted to change or add a habit, it felt like it was a part-time job. Even after I'd successfully done this, I then would run into errors where maybe the logging didn't work right, the data just wasn't displayed exactly how I wanted it to. I felt like the tool was getting in my way. But then it dawned on me. Habit tracking apps are literally all over the App Store. Why was I trying to reinvent the wheel? It didn't take long for me to have a home screen full of app icons. Some of them didn't make it beyond the initial launch. They were either too simple, they were too complex, or some of them just wanted me to fork over a lot more money than I was comfortable before I knew if this was even going to stick for me. You see, just as with habits, habit tracking is an intensely personal thing. Our habits are an extension of our personal values, and those are the very building blocks of our identity. Each of us, then, is going to have different wants and needs when it comes to building that individual identity. I needed to find what was going to work for me. So initially I landed on the app Strides. It wasn't perfect, and there were times where I longed for some more data presentation than what it was offering me. But for a few months I stuck with it. Well, then I stopped. There were reasons. There always are. Many of them were just excuses, but I didn't feel like the app or using it was very sticky. I didn't find myself enjoying using it, looking forward to opening it, and I really couldn't figure out why. So eventually I just gave up. I did build some habits during that time that have managed to continue to this day, but most of them didn't. And that needs to change. When I first came up with my ideas for this channel, I fairly quickly landed on the idea of challenges. You see, I want to try new tools and new workflows. I want to try different applications. I want to practice on myself, and I want to improve. Challenges seemed the perfect way to approach that. So I'm kicking this off with my first 30-day challenge. Here's how the challenge will work. I am committing to tracking 5 daily habits using 3 different habit tracking apps. I want to see if the apps actually help make the habits stick. I want to then be able to reflect on what are the benefits of making small daily changes. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of this challenge. First, the habits. I am intentionally keeping things very simple here. Habits work best if they're easy, especially when they're new habits that you're just starting out with. So none of these that I have chosen are new, groundbreaking habits that I'm trying to add to my life. These are habits that I know I can do. Most of them are habits that I have done in the past, but I haven't been consistent. And that's the goal of this challenge: consistency. So here are the habits. Meditate 10 minutes every day. Exercise every day. Some type of intentional workout. Eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily. Read 10 minutes from a book. I spend a lot of time reading, whether it's articles or other things, but I want this to be from a book. And finally, journal before going to bed. Consistency is the goal. I want to lock these habits in, and I want to see the results. How does this impact my energy? How does my sleep change? How is my mental state? Really, how do I feel overall? Now, the apps. I want to give Strides another chance. In the beginning of the year, it clicked, and it was better than some of the other options that I tried. But I also think I overloaded it and made it a little bit too complicated. We're going to try it again. I'm also going to be looking at 2 additional habit trackers, one simply called Habit Tracker and the other Habitify. I've chosen these intentionally as all of them are well rated in the App Store. None of them, at least on initial opening, seem too complicated to get set up, and all of them have very reasonable in-app purchases so that I could ensure that I was getting the full experience. So what am I looking for in each of these apps? Well, I want to know, how is the setup process? Do they present the data in a useful manner? Do they offer any insights if there are both habits that I'm doing really well or ones that I'm struggling to succeed with? And most importantly, does the act of tracking encourage the stickiness of those habits? One additional criteria in choosing these 3 apps in particular, all 3 of them are available across all Apple platforms, which is what I predominantly use. They're available on the Apple Watch, the iPhone, the iPad, as well as my Mac. That way I can see how they present their data across devices of different screen size, and most importantly, ease any friction in using them, since they'll be available for me to easily track or see what habits I still have to do, no matter what device I'm at or have with me. All right, let's set up each app from scratch, adding each of those 5 daily habits to see how easy or frustrating that process is. If the setup process is a chore, what chance does the app even have? Strides had by far the best pre-built list of habits. It was definitely the most comprehensive by a significant margin. Setting up a number of times a day for an individual habit was fairly easy as well. There was one annoying tutorial pop-up though. Habit Tracker had far fewer built-in options, and it didn't have a default reminder when you tried to enter a custom habit. You had to go in and enter that option, and then you could fill it out. Overall, it felt like the slowest of the 3. Habitify was the only one that offered habit stacking, which is tying multiple habits together. It also gives the option of having a checklist within a habit. Still, it was a little too easy to accidentally select break a bad habit rather than build a new one. Well, that's it. 5 habits loaded into each of the 3 apps. Now it's time to challenge both the applications and myself. At the midway point, I'm going to check back in and we're going to see how the challenge is going. Are there any obvious winners or losers? And then at the end of the 30 days, I'm going to be back with a deep dive into the process. I want to look into each one of those applications. Did they work for me? If so, why? If not, same thing. Also, would I recommend any of them, and do I plan to keep using them? But most importantly, I'm going to be looking at the changes that I noticed as I worked on those habits. What were the challenges I faced as I tried to get them done and really tried to be consistent? Now, here's the thing. Don't just watch me struggle. Subscribe. Choose your own habits and track them in whatever way works for you. What habits are you going to track? Comment below and let's build these habits together and see what changes by the end of this challenge. That's what matters. Small actions, daily effort. This is where imperfect practice begins.